what is going on? I hope you guys are well. So we've just had Gennadiy Golovkin fight Kamil Szeremeta. I think that's how you say his name. I'm probably butchering that name, so I apologize. But he fought Kamil, and Gennadiy Golovkin dropped him 4 times, um, and eventually getting the stoppage in the seventh round. Golovkin, he fought a bit differently in this fight. I don't know whether that's Jonathan Banks working his magic on him. He also looked great. Firstly, I must say, on the scales, I didn't do a video. He looked great. He looked ripped. Golovkin doesn't look very good on the scales usually. He looks very drawn. He looked very good. He looked bubbly, full of energy. He looked lean. Again, Golovkin's not known for having a very muscular physique, but he looked very good. I think it's one of the best he's looked at the weigh-in. And Golovkin, for me, is fighting a bit more different. Is fighting differently. He fought in the center of the ring, boxing. He was clearly boxing more. He wasn't, normally Golovkin just stalks his opponent, walks him down, but he wasn't walking this guy down. He was actually boxing him. And I actually believe if he had started stalking him and walking him down like he normally does, he probably would have got the stoppage a lot earlier. But maybe Golovkin's trying something new, or is it old age? But normally you would see Golovkin walking guys down. He didn't walk this guy down, and I don't know whether that's a change in style because now he's with a new trainer. They're trying to implement something else. I don't know. I don't know what's behind that. Is it the fact that he's older now? I don't know. I don't know. But it was definitely different. It wasn't the same Golovkin. Golovkin, like I said, normally stalks you, walks you down, and beats you up. Golovkin wasn't doing that in this fight. He wasn't walking Kamil Szeremeta down. He was just boxing him. And I think that's why the fight went 7 rounds. Otherwise, I think if he started walking him down, when he fought Kell Brook, for example, he was literally stalking Kell Brook, cutting the ring off on his chest. And that's how Golovkin normally fights, 4 or 5 years ago. And to be honest, I preferred that Golovkin because that Golovkin was like a wrecking ball. This Golovkin is more circumspect. And I don't feel he's as dangerous as he is when he's fighting the way, because when he fights that way, he makes a lot of opponents panic because of the power that he has and the tough chin. He's always on your chest and he's always there, and a guy that tough and a guy that strong that can punch like Golovkin can, to have him on your chest is not just physically draining, but mentally it drains you, because he doesn't go anywhere because he's got a granite chin and he's there on your chest all night long. So it makes it such a hard fight for the opponent. But yeah, I do find the way he's fighting now, I don't know, like I said, I don't know whether it's the aging process, the fact that he's older, so he's not fighting the way he used to. Is it just natural decline? Or is it the fact that Jonathan Banks has actually got him fighting this way? Like I said, against some of the upper echelon fighters, like your Billy Joes, like your Demetrius Andrade, like your Canelos, I don't think that's going to work. I think against someone like Billy Joe, he's someone like that, or Andrade, he's just going to have to walk those guys down and beat them up and use his power and strength. Because, to be honest with you, the way Golovkin cuts off the ring, right, for guys like Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders, that will be very important. I think those guys would prefer if he stands in the middle of the ring throwing jabs and looking to box. By the way, Golovkin's a very good boxer himself. But I do think that by him walking them down and cutting off the ring and pressurizing them and being the pressure fighter, I do think that will make guys like Saunders, Andrade make mistakes. And when you're a big puncher like Golovkin, you only need a couple of punches to change the fight. So I think Golovkin needs to go back to that old style, especially against the top echelon fighters, because I think it definitely will work for him. I definitely think that Golovkin can, against those guys, walk those guys down and beat them up. I do. Golovkin's a very, very big puncher. He's got a granite chin, and he's tough as anything. So for me, I think Golovkin has to go back to his old style of walking guys down, because in this fight, he didn't do a lot of that, if I'm honest with you. He was more boxing this guy. I don't know whether that, like I said, whether that was just due to the fact that he knew this guy was limited. So he thought, let me try, maybe they're trying something in training to see how it works against even the better fighters. But I just think that guys like Andrade and Billy Joe Saunders would prefer Golovkin to stand in the middle of the ring and box with them. I think, and even Canelo for that matter. Even Canelo, because Golovkin's always known for being a strong dude that walks guys down, that cuts off the ring. That's what Golovkin needs to do against those guys, because like I said, when Golovkin used to fight like that, it used to force those guys to make a lot of mistakes. It used to force, Canelo, for example, made mistakes because it's the constant pressure. There was times where Canelo got tired in both fights because it's the constant pressure of this big, strong bull guy that's got a granite chin continuing to come forward at you. And then he punches hard as well. This guy can crack. So he's always on your chest. That's what made Golovkin Golovkin, and that's what made Golovkin so hard to deal with. And that's why Golovkin used to get guys out of there, because they just couldn't do anything with him. They couldn't hurt him. They couldn't, outbox him because he was always on their chest. Golovkin's a brilliant fighter, but like I said, this version of Golovkin I don't like as much. Especially, I think, obviously against these lesser fighters, he'll be okay. But against the top echelon fighters, I do think they'd prefer him to fight this way rather than come forward and cut the ring off and be on their chest all the time. And someone like Saunders would love that if he fights the way he fought this guy. Saunders, I think it would be a nightmare for someone like Saunders if Golovkin starts cutting off the ring, starts being on his chest, hitting him hard to the body with headshots, and just I think Saunders would make a lot more mistakes, because one thing that we know, Saunders hasn't got power. And they are talking about a Saunders-Golovkin fight next. Saunders hasn't got that kind of power. And I think it'll be very difficult for him to outbox Golovkin if Golovkin starts walking him down, cutting off the ring, because Golovkin's not going to be overawed by his power. And for me, Golovkin has enough power to really hurt Billy Joe Saunders. But if he fights the way he did today, then I think Saunders has a great chance of beating him. I think if he fights how he normally fights, walking guys down, being the pressure fighter, being on guys' chests, then I think I would favor Golovkin to beat Saunders. But like I said, it just depends on how Golovkin approaches the fight, and we just don't know, because Golovkin is old now. We don't know whether Golovkin is just past his best and he's just a lot slower now, and maybe he's not able to walk guys down the way he did. Or maybe it's just something they're trying in training. Maybe it's something that Jonathan Banks is getting him to implement during his fights to make him a better boxer. I don't know. But I definitely thought the Golovkin fought a completely different way to what we're normally seeing in fight. Like I said, I think we normally see him walk guys down, be the pressure guy, force guys to make a lot of errors and mistakes. Whereas today he was kind of like more in the center of the ring boxing this guy. And that's why I think the fight went as long as it did in 7 rounds. Otherwise, I think if Golovkin had started pressurizing him, walking him down, I think the fight would have ended maybe in 2-3 rounds, because the guy clearly wasn't on Golovkin's level. And what's with Golovkin fighting these lower level opponents? Since the Canelo fight, who is Golovkin really fought? He hasn't fought anybody really at world level. I don't know whether that's because he's campaigning for another Canelo fight and he doesn't want to risk himself losing. But surely it's time for Golovkin now to get into a meaningful fight and roll the dice, because fighting these type of guys, what's that doing for Golovkin? I don't get it. Now I know he's got a deal with DAZN, and they're probably paying him good money, to fight these guys. But still, I think it's about time Golovkin, fights the more stiffer challenges in the division now. I think he's not getting any younger, so if he wants some big fights, I think he needs to start stepping up and fighting those guys rather than fighting these fights. I don't know whether this guy was a I don't know. I don't know why Golovkin was fighting this guy, because didn't he fight Steve Rolls, and then he fought another. Like, he's just not fought after the Canelo fight. I don't think he's fought anybody at world level. you know, and I think it's about time where he jumps in if he can't get the Canelo fight. You know, he keeps talking about, oh, I want the winner of Smith Canelo, but he's not mentioning any other names. It's just, it feels like he just wants a Canelo fight, and Canelo's not really interested in Golovkin. So for me, Golovkin needs to move on with his career. He either needs to move up to 168 and look for some meaningful fights there, or he needs to fight. He needs to fight Andrade or Billy Joe Saunders, or fight those type of guys, because Golovkin, like I said, is getting no younger, and I want to see Golovkin in there with you know, in big fights, not wasting the last part of his career by having fights that aren't really meaningful. You know, he needs fights that are meaningful. He needs proper fights, and a fight with Billy Joe Saunders, Andrade, you know, Charlo. These are proper fights. These are great fights. So that's why I personally think that hopefully Golovkin can start getting these big fights with the likes of Charlo, with the likes of Saunders, with the likes of Andrade, because to be honest, the fans want to see Golovkin in there with the top guys. We don't want to see Golovkin fight the level of opponents that he's been fighting of late, because you know, we know Golovkin's going to blow those type of guys away. We want to see if he can still do it at world level against the likes of Saunders, Charlo, and Andrade. You know, great fights, man. They need to be made. They need to be made. I wouldn't mind seeing Saunders, Golovkin next. And like I said, I think on that performance, you'd give Saunders a very good chance, especially if Golovkin fights the way he did with this guy and boxes. I think Golovkin, if he starts walking Saunders down, I think I would favor Golovkin massively in that fight. Walks him down and fights like he did of old, the old Golovkin, then yeah, I'd favor Golovkin massively. But if Golovkin fights the way he fought this fight, then I think Saunders would have a great chance of beating him. But listen, man, Gennadiy Golovkin's a great fighter, granite chin. You know, he's proven a lot. He's a big puncher. But I still think that his resume is a little soft. I think his resume could be a lot better than what it is, and that's why I think he needs to get a shift on and start fighting these top middleweights or super middleweights. He needs to start fighting them, because like I said, he's at the end of his career, and I think he should go out with a bang. Because for me, even at this point, he's still more than capable of beating Andrade, beating Charlo, beating Billy Joe Saunders. So yeah, let's see what Golovkin does next. He did what he had to do tonight against a limited opponent. But we need to see Golovkin in there with the top echelon fighters in the middleweight and super middleweight division. Leave your thoughts, guys. Make sure to smash that like button. Let me know what you think of Golovkin's performance. Let me know how you thought Golovkin performed. What did you make of it? How do you think he gets on with Saunders, Charlo, Andrade, and all the top middleweights and super middleweights? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. Let me know what you think. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.